Welcome back to LCS Academy. It is time for our second game of the day. My name's TJ, joined by Josh. Say one of your League of Legends things.
Nargata! Right. I feel like that was kind of the entire thing from last game.
Okay. I thought it would be like an analytical point. That wasn't where I thought that was going to go.
No, not at all. I mean, honestly, it's hard to know what Nar is saying most of the time, because he's just saying, shoogie, shoogie, shoogie. So, that could be a very meaningful point, right? We don't know the finer points of prehistoric world, unfortunately.
I thought, now that you're kind of explaining it, it really was a really good analytical point, and I appreciate that. It's time to get into our second game of the day. Team Liquid Academy taking on Dignitas Academy. As you said, we did just get a Nar-dominant, Oceanic-dominant Game 1, and those themes may very well come back, because we have a very exciting top lane matchup here in our second game.
Yeah, we do. We have a couple of Academy veterans and some people with a little bit of LCS experience, as well as Lorlo and Jenkins going to be going head-to-head. Now, Nar's a little bit more dangerous to pick into Jenkins, simply because he does have so much experience on things like the Kennen with strong matchups in that regard. But Lorlo, he's a kind of confident player who can often come through and just say, like, yeah, I'll take this bad matchup because I think I'm a better player than you are. And I wouldn't be surprised if one of these two teams decided to pick it up anyway.
You know me, I'm all about the new fresh faces out from the amateur system. So what excites me about this matchup is actually not the veteran top lane with two stable, strong players, but the bot lane, where we have no clue what's about to happen. We have Eon coming fresh off of that all-powerful Team Ocean in the Scouting Grounds. He played for Anu in the 2020 Scouting Grounds season. And then you have Spawn on the opposite side, who played on Polar Ace, if I'm remembering correctly, and was part of that really good game in Challengers Uprising, where they took 100 Thieves Next all the way to 5 games. He was like the reason that happened. So I'm really excited to see this Scouting Grounds bot lane AD carry matchup.
Yeah, I agree, and we also have to touch on the fact that this is the Battle of the Spawns coming through, right?
Oh, you're
Obviously,
right.
we have Spawn the player, and then we have Spawn the coach coming in from Team Liquid Academy, as he brings in a couple more players to his roster as well, and Harry and Ayla are going to be rounding out the mid lane and the bottom. And I know Harry was a former Order player, so as we continue to track that, and it looks like Ayla is as well, so a lot of synergy built in there. A lot of people have played with each other as this entire scene continues to grow, and more people have opportunities to just play with their friends.
Yeah, it was kind of a story of the off-season that Jat refreshed the coaching staff over there on Team Liquid. And for Team Liquid Academy, that was a coaching staff that hadn't delivered. Team Liquid finished dead last split. And bringing in Spawn, him bringing in a lot of his players from Order, I think that'll set the tempo for a very, very interesting Team Liquid season. Yeah,
and as we start to see this draft starting to come through across the board, I'm expecting to see something fairly different for the blue side, because Team Liquid and whoever's on blue side generally has a little bit more drafting freedom in the current meta, whereas the red side, we already see the Pantheon getting banned away. Things like the Olaf are also super crucial to get off the bay. Look, a little prophecy coming through right there, and see if I can get one more, like that. Actually.
Okay.
What else is really, really good? Jin,
Crystal
Kaisa
Ball
are kind of the two big ones that you're looking at, simply because you want to make sure that you limit the trifecta of super powerful AD carries on the patch.
This is actually Invert still over on the Dignitas Academy coaching roster, who I know, maybe a little bit of caster bias there, we have done some desks and some casts together in Academy. He does agree that a bot lane is necessary for the ban. It's not Jhin or Kaisa. And that is Eon's Aphelios that is really, really good. As I was talking about, these two bot laners are kind of the stars, I think, of both these teams, which is maybe why we rushed that Kaisa out as a first pick, why Eon merits an Aphelios ban.
Yeah. I mean, Yun's Aphelios is really, really good, but Aphelios just as a champion, like, it's still popular, and I don't get... I also don't get that champion a whole lot. It's been really struggling in a lot of these games simply because, you know, as we've been seeing, like, things like Moonstone Renewer become a lot more powerful and a lot more prevalent on the patch. You can actually out-heal the damage that Samira does pretty consistently, and with her short range, she doesn't do a whole lot beyond just damage and doesn't have the same kind of safety that Kai'Sa will often provide.
I feel like
Nidalee being paired with it might be alright.
I feel like Samira mains were kind of baited by how powerful she was on launch. That ultimate isn't, oh, I'm going to one-shot an entire team. It's, oh, there are 3 players around me that are low and I have the Collector. That's what the ultimate is useful for. But Samira mains had like a couple of days where they could just one-shot an entire team, so it's taken a while to recalibrate. We do get our junglers on both sides, as you talked about. Dignitas grab themselves a Nidalee. It will be a Hecarim against them for that quick, clear match in the jungle. We also have a Camille up top, presumably against that Shen, though there is some flexibility.
Yeah, I think this is most likely a counter pick coming out for Lorelo up against Jenkins, just because it is a pretty playable matchup for Shen, and he's still pretty strong on the patch, and right now he's not really needing to build a whole lot of magic resist. So he's pretty happy to go for things like the Frostfire Gauntlet so that he has a really strong trading pattern, as well as can hold people in place for a long time for things like Acadian later in the game. As we divert our attention now down to Ayla and JJ in the opposite side of the map, Galio is going to come through as a ban, Yone taken off the table from Yusui. I wouldn't be surprised if we see another Leona taken off the table as well.
Oh my god, he's trying to do it again.
I'm trying.
So far, we'll hold it. The crystal ball, it got a little bit clouded. There was some weather. I'm interested to see this focus on the mid lane, because that does seem like where Dignitas are focusing their attention. Harry is one of the best players from that mid lane in the OPL. They won the Academy Series, the OCS, over there, with Intuition in 2018, and got promoted up to Legacy, played with that, or sorry, up to Order, played against that Legacy roster in the finals and lost, but they have been a consistent presence at the top of that Oceanic region. So I'm excited to see what Harry and the rest of the Oceanic imports as well can do here on the big stage.
Yeah, but we got to talk about the new champion suddenly on the patch. Suddenly we have Rel being played once again for the first time in Academy. We saw a little bit of it during the lock-in, and I know a couple of my good friends are very excited about the prospects for this champion. But
I'm your good friend.
Yeah,
Hi,
you're one of those good
me.
friends. This champion is a lot of fun and really cool, but as I'm sure you can attest to, TJ, this champion is difficult to play.
Very. One of the comparisons I made is it's like if Leona had the aggressive capabilities of Braum, where you have all these engaged tools and then not really anything to do once you're engaged. And that's a big problem in solo queue, because my AD carry is never with me. Matt, you know who you are. But if you're playing in a coordinated team environment, what I think we're starting to see, we saw some very good LPL rels as well, is that's not so much of a stopgap. You can go in and have your team follow up, and it's devastating. We get JJ as the final draft here. They will grab a Sylas from the mid lane. It'll be against a Twisted Fate. Nautilus will be opposing that rel in lane.
Interesting. So honestly, we're seeing a pretty close to a threat overload composition coming out from Team Liquid once again. Again, these compositions are so popular. It's part of why things like Kai'Sa and Jhin are as prevalent as they are. Whereas Dignitas, you know, I see Rel and she's got some pretty good wombo tools for their composition, but it feels a little bit disjointed overall for what they're trying to do. You have a little bit of a teamfight composition with the Sylas and Rel being able to combo a lot of damage on top of each other. Samira can help out there as well. But then what are Nidalee and Shen really doing in this composition? Lorelo has to be looking to be split pushing pretty effectively. Yusui looking to try and 1-3-1. So
can I theory craft?
Yes, you can.
Sorry, I don't have a gigantic brain like you do, but this appears to me just a boost spawn comp.
I do like boosting spawn.
Because Samira's entire theory is, hey, I can get ahead in lane, and if I do, the game's over. And if you tell me, hey, we've got a Nidalee, who's a great ganking jungler, hey, we've got a Sylas who can roam very effectively, running TP, it looks like, and you have Lorlo being, of course, able to contribute to that lane as Shen. And you have Rel, who is not a great laning support by themselves, but is really good if you start scrapping in lane. I believe that the Dignitas game plan could be built around boosting this Samira in Spawn's hands, out ahead, and relying on that snowball to carry the game.
Yeah, I agree. That could be a real way for them to play in the game, but it feels like a relatively narrow win condition compared to what Team Liquid have drafted for themselves, right? Because, you know, you can get Spawn ahead, but you can also get Yon ahead, and suddenly you have this super powerful Kai'Sa, and, you know, just as you said, if Samira pops off and is able to take over the game early on, going to be great. There's not a whole lot that Kai'Sa can necessarily do about that. But if Samira falls behind, Dignitas Academy suddenly is looking a little bit light on damage, a little bit light on initiation, and instead are going to have to rely on what I call good playering over your opponents. You just win every skirmish, TJ, and it's really just that easy.
You do always have to rely on the good playering at the end of the day, but it's nice to have a composition that can get you there as well. It's time for Game 2 of our LCS Academy Day 1, as we fight into Dignitas versus Team Liquid, Josh.
We do. And once again, we're seeing a small invade coming in from the red side as they're moving as 5. Not going to be catching out Ayla in the same way that Joey was at risk in the previous game, but Yusui, yeah, he's just going to go over the wall looking to find somebody, but Harry, smart enough to stand far enough back that he's not going to be at any real risk of going down. Instead, Ayla, we've been seeing this a little bit. Joey did it last game, drops a ward in the second bush in the bottom lane, and that's going to give him an opportunity to back away and pick up a red trinket.
Yep, all good, all slow starts. I don't know, there was like a lot of hype amongst my friends who are super into analytical League of Legends about level 1s this season, and we haven't really seen it yet, which is disappointing. I need a little more chaos in my LCS and LCS Academy.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it would suit you very well. As a person, as a player, as a commentator, just like, hey guys, we're just fighting from second one.
Yeah, I don't know, I really like the LPL, so that probably tells you everything.
For sure.
Red start for Acadian. Armeo starting Raptors, so neither will require a leash from their bot lane, which is important because, as we kind of theorized during the draft, both Eon and Spawn are win conditions for their relative teams.
Yeah, and we're already kind of starting to see that Rel, you know, not having a ton of aggressive power, gets hooked and takes a ton of damage immediately right off the bat, and that just makes it even more difficult as the game goes on, right? Because she doesn't have sustain really built into her kit. She's more reliant on being able to be aggressive, and if you can't do that, well, Samira's not happy.
I made the comparison to Leona, who kind of similarly struggles if the lane devolves down into poke, because Leona doesn't have the tools to half engage, to threaten engages. It is all in or not in, and Rel is in a similar boat. So expect to see JJ struggle if this lane slows down. However, Rel does, I think there's a misnomer that they're not effective early. I'm going to hold this because Acadian may be trying to be effective early if Yusui can get in position. There it is.
Oh.
Good CC. Hayri with the flash away. Acadian will follow for damage. There is first blood passed over very carefully to Yusui in mid for Dignitas to get an early start to their Silas.
That's actually really big, because as you saw previously, before the waves had crashed into the turret, Yusui had been sitting on 1 minion kill so far, and putting Twisted Fate back on the back foot is super, super important, because if Yusui can start winning these trades in the mid lane, Twisted Fate doesn't have the same kind of presence in the mid part of the game. It becomes very difficult for this Twisted Fate to do anything, and so suddenly a new win condition opening right up for Dignitas as Harry just ends up getting caught. He doesn't have a card to throw at all. He doesn't have a stun, and with all the damage and all of the mobility coming in from these characters, very difficult. Yusui being smart, auto-attacking minion just to get the AoE bit of damage coming off of his last auto-attack.
So, a good lead for Dignitas to start things off. Again, I think they want to direct that down towards the bot lane, but if you're watching the mini-map, you'll be able to notice that they don't even especially have to, because Spawn is already being able to shove in that lane, press Eon back. They're now trying to freeze to counter that. But the current state of this lane is that Rel has their engage tools, they have their Leona level 3 equivalent, and now this Kai'Sa just cannot get involved in a scrap unless they have a third man.
Yeah. So we'll see. Armeo currently sitting in the bottom half of the map, sitting on the Krugs, and interestingly enough, there's potential another opportunity to fight in the mid lane as Harry with no flash could be engaged upon by JJ and Acadian. And if both of them come through, can be more dangerous, but here's Nautilus.
Ayla in with the hook, bot lane, noticed that there wasn't a Rel in their lane, and roams up, catches JJ recalling, gets a kill right back, even trade 1-for-1.
So what does that mean, right? If Leona starts struggling really hard when they can't really go aggressive, now that JJ has no flash, now that he's significantly behind in experience compared to everybody else who just participated in that kill, does it flip the script again? I wonder if Spawn doesn't have an opportunity to really CS now that things are being pushed under his turret.
I think that won't be too disastrous right now. I think Rel still has enough CC engage tools that it's not going to be the end of the world. However, this certainly isn't a good sign for the bottom lane.
Yeah. And as we touched on, it's just JJ's been gone for a long time. I wonder where he could be. He is in mid lane like we suspected. Let's go ahead and pick that up, and now Harry with a kill for themselves is going to kind of once again be in a spot where they can bully around the Silas. And so as the game kind of comes to a bit of a wash, as we don't see any significant advantages across the map like we saw at this point in the previous game, we're going to start having to pay a lot of attention to Harry.
Even with that death, I do think there is a pretty significant team fighting advantage during this early game over to Dignitas. They will agree with me and force this first Drake. Armeo did just get vision, but not nearly in time.
Yeah, not level 6.
Still posturing anyway, for this. Yeah. Eon through, that's going to be your first charge in. TFTP in from Harry. First ultimate from JJ will slow down this fight. The Magnetic Storm pulling everyone close, but Eon's able to assassinate Spawn through the fight with a Void Seeker. JJ gets the opposing jungler, and this trade is pretty much dead even if Yusui falls, which he will. JJ doesn't manage to get the CC, and a slight advantage gets passed over as Harry is able to lock down a double kill at the end of that fight.
Wow, there was so much that happened in that whole sequence of events, TJ. Jenkins ends up dying 1v1 to Lorlo of the top half of the map, trying to prevent him from joining the rest of the team fight. Armeo gets level 6 in the middle of the fight and actually has an opportunity to suddenly have access to his ult. And when all is said and done, we see 1,000 gold lead going over to the side of Team Liquid, and a lot of it is concentrated now on this Twisted Fate. I was going to say we need to see where he's going to be effective on the map, and getting an effective first ult, getting 2 kills and assists off of that means that he is suddenly super enabled to move around everywhere else. So we get a replay from this. Watch Armeo. He's not level 6 right now. He gets the smite, and suddenly he can go in on this entire team fight.
That had to have been planned. He had to be like, man, I'm going to go in here and activate the ulti. Also, big ups to Yeon from the back of that fight, just finding the Void Seeker for a very critical kill. And it's all kind of, as you touched on, it ended with 1k advantage to TL. But I think it's all a little bit worse than that, because some of those kills went over to JJ. He ended up with a kill onto Armeo. The gold isn't nearly as well directed. The XP isn't nearly as well directed because Spawn went down right at the start of that fight. So yeah. Dignitas are kind of knocked out of their early game plans by that.
Yeah. And so, you know, there's a big question, right? We touched on the Twisted Fate being really big, suddenly super, super important to pay attention to. But Yusui is also like this half-Twisted Fate, right? He can just take the ultimate away from Harry, and now he can be the one to start roaming around the map. And, you know, well, he's not as powerful at this point in the game compared to Twisted Fate, who still has more base stats and range to play with and isn't as reliant on getting these AP ratios and the items underneath his belt. He can still move around, and he's got a pretty consistent stun and enough damage that if you have the setup from JJ or the setup from Lorlo, you can start fighting these fights on your own as well, and we'll see what they end up doing with that, because they're giving over this Rift Herald at this moment because Lorlo had just backed.
Armeo will pick it up, and there you go. Team Liquid turning their advantage into more. Dignitas want to regain their initial game plan, boost the bot lane as we theorized, and here it is onto Eon with Acadian nearby. Spawn on the opposite side of this turret, but none of them are able to put the pieces together. That gank is rather disappointing.
Yeah, Yusui not going anywhere with this ultimate either. Just using it for information. Sees Armeo is down in the bottom half, and at this point they're probably like, all right, good thing we didn't go for that, because with Hecarim right around the corner, likely would not have gone particularly well. But as Yusui's ultimate fades, Harry's is up, right? Suddenly, with Armeo already down in the bottom half of the map, Yusui going away, we might see an ult here.
Had to blow the Pharamancy there from JJ just to stay alive. Not what you want to see. I get a rel casting boost. I'm super interested.
Yeah, I mean, you play a lot of this champion, right?
Yeah,
I know you're on a Bard kick right now.
I'm on a Bard kick right now, but there was a period when she came out that she was all I was playing. And as a rel main, I would like to report this is how many of my games went. JJ is kind of in the state right now where there is no way for them to acquire enough tank to be a viable tank during this mid-game. Failing, of course, a huge teamfight win or something. That doesn't mean that the rel is going to be useless. Still provides big CC value and big engage in teamfights come late game. But it's going to be a tough road ahead.
Oh, Armeo's here.
Yep, Jenkins in. Armeo was a little too slow, or maybe Lorlo was a little too quick to realize what was up. Either way, Dignitas don't lose anything more here. And that is important because it is the lane that's looking pretty good for Dignitas. A little bit of a CS lead and a kill lead over to Lorlo currently.
Yeah, we never got to see how exactly Jenkins ended up going down in that 1v1, but now we have another dragon coming up, and as you said, Rel not currently a viable tank, just has some crowd control to play with, and I think this means that Team Liquid should be posturing around this dragon as they are, and maybe looking for more fighting.
Yeah, if JJ spots an opportunity, some clustered players, something comes of it, but as is, just going to be hovering behind Acadian, seeing if they can land the CC should a hook go in. There is the hook. Drake already picked up. JJ goes in. There's the ultimate opportunity, and it will land a big magnetic storm. Can there be a follow-up? Spawn from the side. Onslaught of Shadows just to try and get away, and Spawn dives in. Does not find the kill, but the chase down is there from Yusui. A double kill. Now to Yusui in the midst of this fight. Dignitas pick up kill after kill. A quadra. Give him the penta. Deep behind the turret, Yusui can't make it happen. A tragedy.
Absolute tragedy. Yeah, Team Liquid are able to pick up the dragon, but they lose everything else off of that and then get 0 kills in return. TJ, suddenly, we were just saying Team Liquid should be good for this fight, but they bite off a little bit more than they can chew. And when we get our replay, you're going to have to pay attention to how effective JJ actually was in this team fight. He had such a large impact. He was able to lock down enough members that it didn't really matter that he wasn't able to be a super effective frontline when he was able to just be an effective controller of the fight.
Yeah, I mean, just check out how effective the Magnet Storm is. Right here at the very start, JJ plays this very well, holding until the squishy members step forward. Then it's the full CC chain, and who's ready to capitalize? But Spawn right around the side, uncontested, right until the dive.
Yeah, it looked so good, and you don't need, you know, something that we had kind of neglected to talk about, TJ. You don't need to be super tanky all on your own when you have a Shen in your back pocket. He was able to create a ton of extra effective HP for the Rel that, despite the fact that they were surrounded by 3 members, never actually died in that entire exchange. So, the game, you know, we don't want to overblow it too much because we are almost dead even in gold still. TJ.
Yep.
But suddenly, Yusui taking over where Harry was leaving off.
That was what Dignitas needed, but it by no means puts them ahead or out of jail or anything like that. That is what they needed to get back into the game. A few moments ago when I said the Rel wouldn't be relevant in the mid-game, failing a spectacular team fight, there was the spectacular team fight, and that means they're now relevant into this mid-game.
So, how they play it, it's going to tell us a lot. Because they do scale decently well, Right. You have a Silas who's going to be super effective later on in the game. You have a Samira who becomes harder and harder to kill later on in the game, but Ayla might be getting caught.
Lockdown passed on to Ayla, good Magnet Storm, and a kill over onto the Team Liquid support. I don't think anything else will come from this unless Eon really wants to fight, and he kind of does, so Acadian tries to roll around the side. Armeo's there to punish, does spend the smite, forcing Acadian back. But Dignitas don't get too much damage onto the turret as a result. Team Liquid make away relatively well from that.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Comparing some of the small things that I'm seeing between this game and the game that we just saw from Immortals, where now, I saw it from Team Liquid, right? When Ayla was skirmishing with JJ and Acadians, like, do we actually want to take this fight? And it was unclear. And then it looked like Armeo was like, no, we fight here. We're suddenly going. But the rest of the team wasn't, they weren't necessarily like, yes, we're doing this. Just like, well, okay, I guess I'm following. And there, I saw something a little bit similar from Team Dignitas, where it looked like Acadian wanted to affect the dive. JJ was thinking about it, but Spawn wasn't really into it. So we talk about this a lot. Having everybody on the same page for a play is way more impactful, even if it's not necessarily the most optimal thing to do in the world. But Dignitas and Team Liquid have shown a little bit of inconsistency as they die top lane.
Yep, stolen TP to get to top lane. Jenkins will go down, but Hayri's on the follow, and Jenkins actually hasn't fallen yet, staying ahead with the mobility. Yusui in big trouble now. This could be a massive shutdown if either Jenkins... Oh, no! The Shen stand united! Yusui stays alive, and there's the turret. Hayri now very low. Armeo will sweep into lane and finally get the kill passed over onto Yusui, and Lolo is stunned up. The lockdown will be secured. A double kill to Armeo. Acadian drifts away, and a back-and-forth team fight up top finally tilts the way of Team Liquid as they pick up 2 very important kills.
Yeah, Jenkins has not been having the best game so far, but that was super clean from him throughout that, as we see a fight in the bottom lane.
Drell stunned to start things off, and Spawn is quickly chunked down. Heon is ignited, but still has enough damage to find the first kill, and JJ is just locked down. There's no escape, unfortunately. What is this? From base. Hi, Yusui. Diving in, 1v2. Depth charge will be stolen away and deployed. There's the shutdown. Okay. Yusui shows up, manages to find himself a kill right back. But don't hold your breath, because Armeo's in lane.
Oh boy. This might be the most OPL game we've seen so far. And there are no OPL players on the Dignitas Academy at all. You got Lorlo, Acadian, Yusui, Spawn, and JJ, who are all domestic players. But now we get to see a little bit more of this crazy topsy-turvy fight. Jenkins does a fantastic job at surviving throughout most of this, right? He's able to create a lot of space, which buys time for Harry to come in. And look how far Armeo is on the map. He was at Wolves when all of this started. Jenkins, though, continues to run, and they try to get fancy, right? They're like,
this is so cool.
Yeah, it's so cool, but then Harry dodges the taunt, and suddenly you have an extra player, you have the extra damage necessary, and Acadian is just too far away, doesn't have the same kind of base movement speed as Armeo's Hecarim does, and ends up giving over 2 kills to another champion that's going to scale so well later on in the game.
Oh my lord.
Oh, we're not done.
I hope you didn't vibe too much to those replays. I hope you don't feel too relaxed, because we're still going. This is for the Drake here. Ocean Drake, of course, is up. Would be the second for either team. Vision control, kind of river control, is being passed over towards Team Liquid, as Dignitas don't fancy their odds.
Yeah. She's going to be getting a lot of priority in the mid lane, and this turret might actually go down because Dignitas a little bit slow to the rotation, but not quite yet. And I'm curious, I don't think Jenkins is actually strong enough. Yeah, exactly. This 1v1 definitely would not be going in favor of Jenkins at this point.
Oh, Ayla.
But Ayla might also get caught.
Too far forward. Turret will be picked up in the bot lane. In the meantime, Yusui was sitting in the bush watching that happen. I'm not sure what for. But now they've scared away Armeo from the Drake. Destiny will be spent by Hayri. Don't think anything comes from it. Drake will be picked up. Dignitas take it. 2 turrets for a Drake is the end trade. And I think TL are happy with that ledger.
Yeah, it might actually end up being 3 turrets, right? Because Harry's in the top lane as
yeah.
well. And Lorlo is just now getting there. So, okay, it's too healthy. Harry's not going to be able to take it down right now. But that is pretty good trade overall for Team Liquid because, you know, I've been of the opinion for a long time that these elemental dragons actually pretty irrelevant, right? They're just a counter more than anything else. You get to 4, and suddenly you get this big buff. But, you know, the little bit of an ocean dragon, the little bit of a mountain dragon, they're helpful. They're not, you know, you don't not want them because they are going to get you that little bit most of the time. But this gold, suddenly like 3,000 gold that Team Liquid just got across their entire team, way more likely to be impactful throughout the course of the game unless Dignitas is able to continue stacking these. And because Team Liquid got the Infernal Dragon, Dignitas is only on 2 instead of 3, it's fine. You don't.
It doesn't look like a win condition right now for Dignitas. They're going to need to hold on for another 8 minutes to get close to that. And right now, Team Liquid are starting to kind of snowball in their own right with a couple thousand gold in the bank and some pretty scary teamfight threats coming online.
Yeah. And I think the thing that's kind of nice as well for Team Liquid is that their damage and their gold is diversified, right? You always talk about you want to have a diversified portfolio.
Exactly.
For when you try and retire,
They're
right? You don't want to put everything. Yeah, you don't want to put everything all in one thing because if that ends up going belly up, well, suddenly everything disappears.
Elon Musk
and
sends
right
a
now,
tweet and things go bad for you.
Yeah, and right now, if Elon Musk were to start tweeting about Yusui, things could go very badly very quickly. And with everybody up here in the top lane, yeah.
This way, we'll poke in there, but it spared the ravages of Elon Musk's Twitter account for now. Team Liquid don't really want to take a fight here because if they lose one, then it's infinitely more disastrous to them than anything they lose by just backing off of the fights. If they just hold, look for opportunities, don't take anything that's not a sure bet, they probably eventually win.
Yeah, eventually. It'll take some time. I think one of the big things that is a good point for Dignitas is the fact that Lorlo is still going to be winning those 1v1s up against Camille. That's not always going to be the case. You know, if this game goes another... Harry.
Acadian and JJ nearby. I want to call out actually what has been happening with JJ and Acadian from moment one. This has kind of been a very almost SOFM reminiscent jungle run. Where JJ has just been bound, essentially Knight's Bow, but it's the Rel passive to Acadian from moment one.
Yeah. It's actually very helpful to just be able to roam around with 2 people rather consistently, and we saw how they were trying to do it. Harry is going for Yusui.
Oh, yeah, doesn't win that. Stand United will be there to back him up. Onslaught of Shadows tries to go through Yusui, finds the kill, drops into stasis, will flash away and get to safety. Huge plays from Dignitas' mid laner.
Yeah, I like, you know, the theory was there, right? They were like, all right, Jenkins, we know Shed might ult. You're going to go stop him over on the far side of the map. But Harry doesn't do that much damage, right? He's got the Protobell, he's got the Zonias, he's got a needlessly large rod. But Silas, you know, if you know nothing else about him, you should know that his Kingslayer heals him for a crap ton. And, you know, Yusui is always going to be able to heal out of the damage that Harry's going to be doing. And Armeo, now maybe they were a little bit too far, maybe they weren't quite on the same page, don't know what it was, but Harry ends up paying the price for his own sins.
Yeah, I think Harry just didn't anticipate he would be burned that much, because the rest of the team, the rest of Dignitas couldn't do that. It's literally only Yusui that could turn that situation.
Yeah. He just goes in, we kind of get to see, like, he gets bursted. You know, you stun each other, you take a ton of damage, and this Zonias actually doesn't help, right? Yusui doesn't have any buttons to push.
Yeah. I just want to give a shout out to how quickly Yusui turns that. He's like kind of backing away, somebody TPs into his face, and he's like, let's go. Mess around and find out. I'm going in.
Call an ambulance, but not for me.
Exactly.
All right.
Harry, biting off a bit more than they can chew. And we will be, I think, seeing the rewards of that for Dignitas. Those little exchanges keep them in the game a little longer. Again, they're kind of just hoping that these Drakes go their way, that they can win a big team fight, although they won't be contesting this Drake. All their resources are up by Baron, actually, as Armeo takes down this Ocean.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is both teams once again just saying, like, yeah, these dragons on their own don't matter. And Team Liquid wants to pick it up mostly just so that Team Dignitas doesn't have it. Right? It's just like, oh, you know, the difference between 2 and 3 in a game of League of Legends is massive. Right? Because suddenly you are threatening to pick up the Ocean Soul, and if either team actually is able to count to 4 this game, they're going to win. But they're both only at 2. You know, eventually...
It's real rough.
Yeah, it's rough. But eventually, you know, we might graduate from preschool and get as high as 4.
Oh my god. They don't call it LCS Academy because you don't learn anything. Top lane will be shoving in during this time. Jenkins, or sorry, Henry, taking down the turret. There is an attempt to punish him. This is Acadian rotating in. Actually, a TP as well. Yusui arriving.
He's dead.
Is he, though? Henry probably dead, but here's the attempt to bail him out. Armeo in, and yes, Josh, he definitely is dead. I apologize for doubting you.
Yeah, I mean, I was worried there that Armeo was going to commit his ultimate going in, and then he would be dead too. But now, he's alive. He can try and contest this Baron take, and suddenly, this Twisted Fate that was supposed to have this really impactful mid-game, they started 3-1-1, now currently 3-4-3, haven't been able to do a whole lot on the rest of the map. And as Team Liquid coalesces around the Baron in order to try and, you know, stop this Baron take from going through, it's going to be a difficult opportunity for them to try and do this, because Lorlo, he's healthy enough that he can just, like, take this and be like, yeah, I'm going to hold this while we wait for people to come over.
Yeah, Naylor does, maybe stepping a little bit too far forward. Dignitas will activate on that.
Oh boy.
Meantime, Eon and Armeo also step up, and Dignitas try and chase both. A little bit of miscommunication. Neither player falls.
Yeah. Oh, Yusui still wants it, throwing out the depth charge.
You're not going to be able to burst down this Nautilus, so I'm not really sure what the plan is here. Ayla will back away. Acadian may find Armeo, but it's only doing slivers of damage. I don't know, we just took a little tour of the map. We just went for a little walk. Josh, we're checking it out.
Yeah. That kind of goes back to what I was saying before, right, TJ? Just like, if they had picked either option, if they had gone after Nautilus or gone after Jenkins in the mid lane, like, both of these options are fine. Is one of them better than the other? You know, probably in some abstract sense of the word, there's probably a better option there. But because they picked neither, they end up getting nothing for it. And a lot of time that Harry was dead is just going to waste. So, you know, it's okay.
Check this out,
He dies here.
Man brought a deck of playing cards to a chess game. Boom!
Yeah. And Armeo's like, I'm out of here. He's the knight.
I like it. You're making the analogy work. Armeo leaving that fight real quick for legal reasons, but they don't lose anything from it, as you touched on. Dignitas find that pick up top, bait the Baron, see what they can pull out. They do pull Team Liquid members out of position, and then nothing happens. And as a result, we're kind of back with them on the back foot. Eventually, Team Liquid will probably be able to get powerful enough to pull out a team fight.
Yeah. And something crucial is happening on the opposite side of the map at the same time, TJ. Remember how we were saying, like, Lorlo was one of the bright spots for Team Dignitas because he's able to push around Camille pretty effectively? That is slowly changing as the items are starting to come through. The Ravenous Hydra completed
the
on
pusher
Jenkins.
shall become the pushed.
Yes. That sounds very ominous, but we'll get back to that as we see the burst of movement speed coming through.
Yeah. Nothing really came from that, but...
Nope.
keep going, Josh. Tell me more.
Yeah. Well, they're just testing each other. Ryan's like, can I do this? Nope. Nah, it's okay. Well, I'll be back in 30 seconds. Don't worry about it. Just waiting for everything to come back up, because we have another fight on our hands brewing. And if a team can find an aggressive engage, if they can take down one of the queens, right, between Yon and Spawn.
Ooh. I like it.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. If you can find that hanging piece, suddenly the fight looks way, way, way easier.
I was in chess club when I was in 5th grade, and that was the last time I have played chess. So I'm pretending to follow these analogies, Josh, but I'm not going to lie to you. I am not following these analogies.
It's all right. If at least one person in Twitch chat is like, yes, chess, Queen's Gambit,
Yeah!
I feel like I'm doing
Chess! Big fan of Jared. He's the guy. Armeo is setting up for this. The Drake is underway. Dignitas starting it off. Armeo will be able to scare him away. Look at how split this positioning is. Jenkins goes through the back of the fight, draws the attention. Yusui over the wall in the back will shut down Jenkins. Meantime, Eon is trying to kite away with Armeo, who took the front lines. And Armeo will fall, does a lot of damage, but doesn't find any kills. Now, Eon's too far forward, will be taunted, will be shut down. Spawn being able to find 2 kills in this fight as Dignitas clean things up. Team Liquid lose a major team fight down bottom here, and as this CC just keeps on rolling, it will be a complete ace.
Wow. Now, we didn't quite get to see how Jenkins ended up getting caught at the very beginning of that, but just, you know, if we got the Queens as the ADCs, Armeo's a Knight, I think Jenkins is a pawn this game. He's 0-2-1, hasn't been able to have a whole lot of impact on a lot of these fights, and, well, he might, you know, eventually you get to promote himself, get to the enemy side of the Nexus, and, and become a Queen.
Right, so
He's
this
not
is
there.
actually, we're gonna have a moment. Dignitas are gonna do Baron. I thought for the longest time that I was imagining that rule because it's in checkers, where you get the piece to the other side of the board and it gets turned into something else, right? Or is that also in chess?
That is also in chess. If you get a pawn to the far side of the board, you can turn it into one of any other piece you want. Usually it's a queen. The queens are pretty good, but...
While you were playing chess, I was playing checkers.
Hell yeah.
Baron will be picked up. Let's take another look at this team fight. It was a bit of a mess, but it was a very well-played mess by Dignitas, and it helps that they just have easier execution in team fights.
Yeah, for sure. And the big thing is they recognize that they can jump on Jenkins and burst him, and suddenly we're looking at what is effectively a 5v4. Stu is able to go in, and Armeo, he's pretty darn strong. Like, look at how long it takes these 4 members to kill him. Unfortunately, Jan doesn't have enough damage to kill all of them. He can't jump into the rest of the team. And at the same time, Harry is not going to ever kill the Stylist. Doesn't have the damage to really contribute. And by the time he joins the rest of the team, the fight's already over.
And you kind of had the fight split into 2 different boss battles, with Yusui and Armeo both diving. And Dignitas cleared theirs quicker. They're able to grab Armeo down bottom. And
first.
That turret won't be under threat. And as a result, by the time the Team Liquid players are turning from the top fight, they've still got Yusui around, and it's still a mess. Here we go. Baron in hand, trying to push maybe for a couple of turrets.
Harry's playing with fire, yeah, and he's gonna get burned.
Into stasis, JJ's here. Magnet Storm will be deployed. TP in as well. JJ on the front lines. Yusui into stasis. JJ taking all that turret aggro. Will be very low and will finally fall. This turret is still standing. Here's Harry with the TP forward. Gold card, Spawn, stunned up. Hex Tech ultimation. Team Liquid are still in this as they pick up several kills in the mid lane. It doesn't look like they'll get Yusui, but they'll absolutely get everyone other than him and Lorlo.
Oh, boy. It was all an elaborate ruse, TJ. I thought Harry was going to get jumped on, but he did. But the fight was so split once again, and because 3 members are still dead 32 minutes into the game, they might have baited it hard enough to actually just end it all at once.
Lorlo in as the tank, needs to save this game, and they die entirely too quickly. Yusui steals away the onslaught of shadows. That's very good CC. The Baron minions, there won't be any more of those anymore, but they do push back the wave. JJ needs to hold out 6 seconds till Spawn respawns. Low HP across the board on Team Liquid. Here's Spawn back. JJ with the dive in. Nexus is being hit.
They did it.
Magnet Storm will be deployed, but there is no way to save this game as Team Liquid off of a single team fight run it all the way down mid and take their first game of the LCS Academy.
I cannot believe that we actually just saw that happen, TJ. It was looking so good for Dignitas. They were scaling better. I was like, Harry is too far forward for this, and it just doesn't matter because that last fight was just so split. They weren't able to take down anybody. being under turret for so long, JJ, he's fairly tanky, he's got a lot of armor, but it was not enough when all is said and done. Oh my god.
What's the chest analogy for that?
You're getting back ranked, and there's like one person in Twitch chat who's like, "Oh my god, it works."
That's a good call.
Yeah, back ranked. There you go. We'll bring up this a little bit later. You'll see a lot more chests coming through over the next couple of weeks, but man, it's crazy, right? We talked about those split decisions and not being quite on the same page and how impactful they can be when you don't have all 5 members doing the same thing. Breaks apart this time.
It lost Dignitas 2 very critical fights that game. There was the one time they did a really good macro setup around Baron and baited mispositionings and then weren't able to punish it. And there was that time where they dove the mid turret, except not really, except kind of, except oh no, we overextended, and then lost the game. And that's the sort of stuff you expect to see in Academy. Those are the sort of kinks you expect to be worked out. But it has to be said, this Dignitas Academy roster is one of the more experienced rosters in Academy. If there was a roster that was going to be able to avoid those problems right out of the gate, I would have said it was this one. So it's definitely something that needs to be addressed in coaching.
Yeah, and I think they have plenty of opportunities, right? We are relatively new. Not only do they have the round robins to play in here, but they have plenty of opportunity to continue to prove themselves, right? As even the teams that don't make it to the next phase of Academy and can still play through a lot of these other tournaments, they're going to get a lot of experience. So I'm excited to see how these guys continue to play out. But Team Liquid Academy, you know, even though they won, it wasn't the cleanest thing in the world either. They started off looking really, really good, and then they were the ones that ended up falling prey to a lot of split decisions. Harry going in and getting instantly turned on by Yusui instantly comes to mind.
I think they spent a lot of that game not sure if they could win a team fight, and that kind of hurt their play overall, because there was clearly some mispositioning. I do want to give a shout out before we leave, though, to Armea, who was absolutely the standout of that game. We're going to go to that break. We'll be back with a player interview on Team Liquid. We can ask them a little bit more about that last game. Don't go far. We'll return with that and more in just a few minutes. You're back watching the LCS Academy, and we're back talking to our Mayo, who did just win a back-and-forth game, TL coming out on top in their first Academy game of the split. How are you doing?
I'm happy to get the win, even though it was,
unfortunately don't think we have the audio. There we go. Sorry, continue.
Wait, oh, did you hear what I said?
No. How are you doing?
Oh, okay. I'm doing well since we won, obviously. Even though the game was definitely a difficult one, you know, it looked a little lost, but we ended up getting an NDT fight, I guess, and winning. So we take those.
Yeah, can you talk through kind of what the team comms were like when they overstepped in that mid lane? Kind of what was going through your team's communications when you realized you might be able to find a turn?
I mean, it was basically just like normal team fight comms. I mean, we thought the game was obviously gonna be hard when they get Baron and they have like huge double leads on everyone, but their team comp wasn't like the best team comp, I think, compared to ours. So like we knew if we can like CC chain Samira, because we have like 8 CCs to stop his ulti, we can still definitely win a team fight, especially if Silas misplays and like, you know, misses his spells or misses his Zonya timing. And basically all that stuff happened and like they made mistakes and we ended up killing them all. So yeah.
So obviously we have a pretty big change in NA recently with all the Oceanic players coming in, and suddenly you also have Spawn as a coach. What has it been like integrating, you know, all of the North American players in yourself, Jenkins, and Jan, with suddenly Harry, Ayla, and Spawn coming over from the opposite side of the world?
Yeah, it's super interesting. I've only got to scrim for 2 days since I was scrimming with LCS to play the lock-in tournament, and even so we didn't even have that many scrims regardless. Just getting people over obviously takes a little bit with the COVID situation. So I mean, to me it's not like they're like different people because they're from a different country, so it's not super difficult. It's just working with League of Legends pros, you know, it's kind of the standard, but it's just we haven't had that much time, you know, to work basically.
I think we were both really impressed by this team roster when we saw it. Team Liquid Academy looks like it could be one of the best teams in Academy. Where do you guys think you're at right now? And going across this season, what are you hoping to achieve?
Right now we're probably like middle of the pack, maybe upper middle of the pack, but I definitely think some of the other Academy teams are stronger than us right now. But I think over the season, like, I think we can easily improve, you know. Obviously we literally just started practicing, right? So honestly, any team can basically swing and get momentum and improve. So hopefully by the end of the season, you know, we're the best and we win everything. However the format exactly works, we just win it all. And I think it's very achievable with this roster.
We were really impressed by your gameplay that game. You were kind of the anchor point that kept your team in the game overall. Do you have any thoughts on how that developed or how we ended up there?
I'm not sure if I was the anchor point exactly. I felt like TF and Kai'Sa, but I ended up being I was pretty strong in the game regardless of like the misplays, especially when I got like the shutdowns top. And in general, my champion was good that game other than versus Salas. So I think as long as I just played my role and CC'd people correctly, game was, yeah, it worked out.
Anyone you want to shout out or call out as we wrap things up here?
Had to shout out to my teammates, I guess, and the staff for prepping us for the game on a short timer, and yeah, it's good.
All right, shout out to the teammates, I guess. Thank you very much, Armeo.
Yeah.
Great first game. Let's take a look at our schedule as we do have a couple more still to come, including this next game, an absolute banger between Cloud9 Academy and TSM Academy. Possibly the best game of the day. You won't want to miss it. We'll be right back with that and the other two after this break.